Due to strong sexual content, viewer discretion is advised. Today on an all-new Dr. Phil, a twisted family secret.
How old were you when you knew that what he was doing was wrong?
A father does the unthinkable.
He takes you to this warehouse to Mexico.
They would take my clothes and throw me in this closet.
Despite all of the atrocities, despite molesting you, you love him.
I just don't want to ever let go of him, ever.
Let's do it. If we're going to do something here that matters, then we got to deal with the truth.
Have a good show, everybody. Here we go.
If I can help get this family back on track, are you willing to do that?
Ready, 3, take.
This is going to be a changing day in your life.
The best memory I have with my family was probably our vacation to California and Disneyland.
There's Dad and the kids.
I have 4 beautiful sisters and 1 awesome brother. On the outside, my family was the perfect picture family.
But behind closed doors, nothing was picture perfect. No one on the outside could imagine the twisted and grotesque secrets this family hid behind the smiles.
Taylor started to have panic attacks when she was 6. She couldn't breathe. She was scared. They did tests on her. She showed no signs of any kind of sickness, and nobody had an explanation for me. I never suspected Taylor was being molested by her father.
The first time he had turned on the porn, I was 6 years old. He gave me some kind of pill, which knocked me out. And the next morning I woke up, my body was just so achy. Watching porn with my dad turned into him starting to touch me, making me perform oral sex in the tub, holding my head under the water. And the first time I had heroin, I was 10. I had an awful migraine. I went to my dad, and he took a teeny little shot out of the heroin, and he put it in my arm. It was just the most amazing feeling. Even though my dad gave me drugs regularly, he hasn't been convicted on any of that.
Around the time that Taylor was 14, her dad took her across the border.
I told my mom I was going to Disneyland with my dad. My dad would take me to Mexico and leave me there as some type of collateral. I would be thrown in a storage closet like I was a piece of trash. And they would be telling me to do certain things with a gun held to my head, and I wouldn't know when the trigger could be pulled. There's been so many bad situations that he's put me in where I could have been hurt or possibly killed, but he's always been the one to come get me.
Didn't have any idea that this had happened to her.
The first time my dad had sex with me, I was 16. I would tell him to stop, and I would ask him, what are you doing? Like, why are you taking my pants off? He would always just cover my mouth or choke me, and just a lot of really awful things.
Taylor's mom, Deanna, says that she had no clue what was going on under her own roof.
I found out Taylor was sleeping with her dad from one of my other children when they came back from a weekend visitation. They innocently commented that she always slept by him at night. I asked Taylor if he'd ever touched her or done anything inappropriate, and she said no. She never ever said a word to anyone until she was 18, and then she went to the police. I found out about what had taken place between Taylor and her dad the morning the story came out in the newspaper. The newspaper has said that he had taken her across the border to Mexico as a trade-off for drugs. It talked in great graphic detail about the sexual abuse, what he did to her, what he had her do to him. The article made me absolutely run to my bathroom. I was physically, violently throwing up. Even though her dad has raped her, drugged her, used her, abused her, I believe that Taylor's still in love with her.
I've got to start by asking you the question everybody in America is asking themselves right now as they watch this, and you probably ask yourself 1,000 times, how could you not know this was going on?
There was no signs of anything that was inappropriate with her and her dad, ever. I knew that she loved him. She was our first daughter, our first child. There was just no signs. He didn't do anything. If I ever would have walked in on a door closed, there was nothing like that that I ever saw.
So not, I mean, because we're talking about for years here.
Yeah.
As you look back with 20/20 hindsight, are there things that you look back and go, wow, that should have triggered me, I should have thought, I should have asked, I should have done something?
Well, I guess probably when she was 6 and she had a panic attack. I took her to the doctor. I took her to the emergency room. I had no idea why she had this. Looking back, he did not react to her having this panic attack. I was scared to death, and he reacted not at all. I look back now, and I know why he didn't seem concerned, because he knew, obviously,
He knew
that
what it was.
something. He knew why she was having what she was having.
And when you went to the ER, there were bruises. Did you wonder where they came from?
I was not aware of bruises when I took her to the ER.
Well,
when
Taylor
she
had
was
said
6. When she was 6.
She said there were bruises, but they didn't tell you that?
There was no bruises that I was made aware of when she was 6.
Well, we'll ask her about that. And listen, I'm not trying to throw you on the bus
No,
here.
I
You
know.
can't react to what you don't know.
Right. If I would have ever seen an obvious sign, I did not know that a child wanting to be with their father a lot was a sign that was a warning sign.
Well, I don't think in 20/20 hindsight, even now, you can say it was a warning sign. I mean,
Right.
I mean, a
yeah.
kid wanting to be with her father. How do you react when she shares with you now what has happened?
It is so painful to listen to and to see where she's been and to see what she's gone through. Now it's extremely painful to listen to the horror, to the stories.
Well, we're going to meet Taylor. Now, no one around her had any idea what was happening to this all-star student. Take a look.
In high school, Taylor was very well liked. She had a lot of friends.
I was involved in clubs. I would go to all the dances. I would tend to spend less time with my dad because I try to keep myself active. I played the guitar for about 8 years now. He was really supportive of it, so when I would tell him, oh, I have a guitar gig, it was okay with him.
She competed in Miss Salem, the local beauty pageant. She was very, very happy.
For my Miss Salem platform project, I chose to talk about how a lot of violence and child abuse comes from drug use. No one at this time knew that there was any sexual abuse between me and my dad.
Well, Taylor, I'm glad you're here. You've been watching the show up to this point before you came out, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Back when this started and your father began to be inappropriate with you, right? He started to show you pornography. Then he started to engage you in inappropriate ways. Why didn't you tell your mother? Why didn't you tell someone that you were being molested?
I just felt really scared. I just knew that if I were to say anything, that some really bad things could probably happen.
What did he tell you?
He told me that he would kill himself or that he would, like, kill my mom or my sisters.
It was happening very regularly, right?
That's correct.
Did you ever come close to getting caught?
Yeah, like when I had the panic attack, I did have some bruising on my private parts. That's probably why my mom didn't know anything about it. And the doctor, when he came in, like, he asked me if everything was okay. They didn't tell neither one of my parents because they wanted to see if either one of my parents were abusing me. So I had that chance right there to say something to that doctor, and I
So
didn't.
the doctor saw it and knew that, but he didn't tell you this.
No,
So
no,
this
they didn't
you
tell me
heard about
anything.
today for the first
This
time?
is the first time I've heard
So
of
when
that.
I asked you about bruises in
Yeah.
the ER, you looked at me like,
Well, when
What?
she was little, right?
And the doctor asked you about it, and you said what to him?
Like I'd fell down or something, but I could tell that he knew something wasn't right, and he didn't know if it could have been my mom or my dad. So he didn't talk to my dad either, I'm assuming.
How old were you when you knew for sure, without any shadow of a doubt, that what he was doing was wrong?
I can't remember the exact age that I was when I started realizing that was wrong. It would have been like in my early teens, and I had seen one of my friends get abused by her dad when I was younger, But it wasn't until I got older that I started realizing, like, having sex with my dad, that's not normal. When all my friends are talking about losing their virginity with these guys, these awesome guys and stuff, and I'm, like, having sex with my dad.
And you knew at that point this isn't right.
Yeah.
Did you ever tell a friend? Did you ever confide in anyone?
No.
How did you feel about it when it hit you that it was wrong?
I just felt really broken.
Coming up, we're going to talk about how a trip to Disneyland turned into a nightmare in Mexico. We'll be right back. Tell me about the time that they forced you to beat up a child.
I was just as big a monster as anyone else in that room.
When he took you to Mexico for the first time, did you know you were going to Mexico?
No, I didn't know, but I had an idea.
And you thought he was taking her to Disneyland. In fact, you did go to Disneyland first, correct?
Yes.
You like stopped there, you went through Disneyland?
Yeah, every time we would go to Disneyland.
So tell me about Mexico. What happened when you got there? He would take you there and leave you, because he had to leave and go somewhere else, right?
That's right.
He would take you to a warehouse. Were there men in the warehouse when he got there?
Yeah, there was a lot of men.
Like how many?
Hundreds.
Hundreds
There was a lot
of
of
men?
men. It was a big warehouse.
And what would he tell you when you were walking through the door into the warehouse? He said, we're going to go in here. Would he what would he say?
He just would tell me that I'll be back, I'll be right back, everything will be okay, like, you'll be safe. Would give me my share of the drugs, like, I'd be loaded, be really, really high. And then he would just leave.
And you're how old at this time?
About 14.
So you're 14. He gets you high, takes you to this warehouse, and says, I'll be back. And he would put you in there. What happened?
They would take my clothes from me and throw me in this closet like I was just a piece of trash. And then just, I don't know, a lot of awful things happened at that warehouse.
You were raped in the warehouse
That's right.
multiple times.
Yeah.
And then he would come back for you.
Every time.
Did you tell him what happened?
No.
Why not?
Because he would just make me feel like a liar, make me feel like it didn't happen.
Tell me about the time that they forced you to beat up a child.
They took me out of this closet and formed a circle around me and this younger girl. And they were yelling at me in Spanish, and like, I don't understand Spanish at all. And while they were like yelling at me, I picked up on that I'm supposed to hit this child, like hit her. So I slapped her. And that wasn't good enough. Like, they hit me with the butt of their gun really hard. They just kept screaming at me. So I pushed her down really hard, like hit her head on the ground. And she seemed like she was kind of out of it 'cause she had hit her head really hard. And I guess that was good enough for them. So they threw us back in the closet and hit me around a little more, and then put me back into. It was just really, really hard because I wanted that child to feel safe with me. But I was just as big a monster as anyone else in that room.
Did you witness your father do violence in Mexico?
Yes.
What did you see?
I witnessed my father shoot someone in the head.
You were how old?
I was like 15.
What did you think in that moment?
I wanted him to shoot me too.
Despite all of the atrocities, despite everything that has happened to you at your father's hands, addicting you to drugs, molesting you, raping you, everything that we're talking about, how do you feel about him?
I love him. But I hate him at the same time. I want to ever let go of him, ever.
So you love him?
Yeah.
You wish he was out of prison?
Yeah.
If you get married someday, you want him to give you away?
I would like that, yeah. But I want him to finish his prison sentence, but be different when he comes out. Get the help he needs while he's in there, and then be different when he comes out.
Is it confusing to you that you love him and miss him and want him back in your life, and at the same time, he has done monstrous things to you?
Yeah, it's really confusing. That's what's hard to explain to other people that want to know, why do you still love him? You know, it's like, well, first of all, because he's my dad. Second of all, like, I was daddy's little girl, like, my whole life. And he's gone now. Maybe forever. That's a big deal to me.
I wrote down some of the things that you've said about him. You said, he was my best friend, my everything. I loved my dad more than anyone in the whole world. I feel guilty for putting my dad in prison. I wish he could live a life outside of jail. All true?
That's true.
I wish mom and dad could be together again, because I was always daddy's little girl. Tell me if I get this right. You're right, he did monstrous things, but he also loved me and cared for me, and he always came back for me.
That's right.
And you're confused how you could have those two things coexisting within you, right?
Yeah.
If I could explain that to you,
Okay.
if I could help you unravel that ball of confusion, would that help you?
Yeah.
That's what I want to do. We've got to take a break. Taylor is the oldest of 6 children. Was she the only one molested by their father? Or were her younger sisters being groomed? Well, we're going to talk to them when we come back.
Taylor and Russ talked together like they were married.
He had his arm around her a lot of the times. I was so jealous of Taylor and Russ's relationship when I was little. But looking back now, I'm so thankful that I didn't have it.
When I think of Russ, I think of hell.
Taylor says no one knew the secret she and her dad were keeping from everyone. Now, she has 2 younger sisters who say they actually used to be jealous of the close relationship Taylor had with their dad. Now they say they want nothing to do with him. They refuse to call him dad and instead refer to him by his first name, Russ.
The connection between Taylor and Russ was very physical, very touchy, and very strong. He always hugged her.
And I noticed that he had his arm around her a lot of the times, too.
They talked together like they were married.
When they were together, they would have sleepovers. Taylor would still sleep by him, and I'd walk in and they'd be like spooning or something. I was so jealous of Taylor and Russ's relationship when I was little. But looking back now, I'm so thankful that I didn't have it.
When I think of Russ, I think of hell. I remember one time we were on a trip. Russ had just taken a shower. He came out in a tight underwear, nothing else on. I was laying on the bed. He came over and he ended up laying on me and wouldn't get off. I said, "Dad, get off me now." And his hot breath was on my neck, and I was so afraid. I kicked, I punched him in the chest. He was laughing, saying, "You're not strong enough." I shoved him really hard in the chest once and kicked him, and he fell off and didn't come back at me again. After that incident, I found one of his knives and hid it under my mattress every night just to feel safe.
Russ is a monster. He's a beast.
Thank both of you for being here. Tell us how you believe she saved you.
If she wouldn't have come out with this information when she did, I would have been hurt. Russ was starting to groom me by taking pictures of me. He was buying me things. He was saying, "Let's go on trips together," just things like that.
So you were next. You were the next victim.
I was the next victim.
And how do you feel about the fact that you saved them by coming out and telling the truth?
I could see that he was grooming my little sister up. Like, I knew that it was gonna happen. Like, I knew. And that just made me sick.
When we were growing up, she'd always know when to leave, the right moment, when to take the kids, and when to step in. And that was a big thing that saved me and us kids from.
But this is when we were divorced. This is when they were with him alone,
right,
away from me.
So you would see her put herself between him and you.
Yeah, and
both time-wise and physically.
I didn't know what, I didn't think it was that bad. I knew I had a horrible feeling. I didn't know why, but I knew that she needed to be there and that she was saving us.
Now, let me ask you this. When you would see them together, because you would say you were on trips, and you said they acted like a married couple, they were touching and talking and those things, was your creepy meter going off? I mean, was it just making you go, this isn't right?
I had a bad feeling, like I said earlier, but it wasn't like, oh, it's just normal. Let's just let it go.
Did you feel the same way?
I would see them spooning or just laying by each other. It really bothered me, and it disturbed me a little bit.
Did you ever say anything to your mother about it?
Yes, she actually asked me about it, and I told her that they had still been sleeping together, and Taylor was older. She was like 16.
And I asked her about it, and I did ask her, has anything ever happened? Has he ever touched you inappropriately? Has anything ever happened? And she said no. She acted like, ew, that's gross. Like, that's something that, how could I even think of that? Why would I even think to ask her that?
You heard me read a number of quotes from Taylor. He was my everything. I loved him more than anyone in the world. Thought of losing him is terrifying. I wish he would live his life out of prison. Said she would want him to give her away. How do you feel about it when you hear her say that?
When she says that, immediately for me, my stomach just is in knots and I feel sick.
Let me explain something to the three of you that I think it's very important to understand. It's hard to wrap your mind around something. You said, I had a bad feeling, but I didn't know, you didn't have any box to put it in. Because a 13-year-old girl doesn't look at a father and sister and go, oh, wow, they must be doing drugs and sex. There was no reason that would ever go through your mind. You don't have the capacity to see that. Thank God that you have a degree of innocence that you don't see that. Just as you can look at a mother and say, how could she not know? But it's the reason we do this kind of show. This is a cautionary tale. Right now, had this show aired and you watched this show, the three of you, you might have said, whoa, wait a minute. He just put a frame around some stuff that I didn't know what to do with.
Exactly.
So by doing this show, maybe, I guarantee you this is happening in homes across America right now. And you need to listen and don't think, oh, it just couldn't be. It can be, and it is. And I would rather accuse somebody innocent 1,000 times in a row than fail to accuse someone that's guilty and let them continue to victimize their person. So it's a false positive situation. Now, coming up, one of Russell's own siblings was the person who wrote into the show. She believes Taylor was brainwashed by her brother, Taylor's father. And then Taylor and I are going to go nose to nose, and I'm going to tell her what's going on in her mind, her brain, and her body. We'll be right back.
If Russ was released from prison tomorrow, I know without a doubt that Taylor would be living with him.
I was my daddy's little girl, and I still am my daddy's girl.
Taylor was brainwashed by her dad.
Even with Russ behind bars, the girls still show signs of being traumatized. One daughter refuses to shower with her eyes closed. We have another daughter who has to sleep with a knife between the mattresses. If you were to drive by our home 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, you would think everybody in the house is awake with all the lights that are on. It cannot be in the dark at all. As a police officer, this case is one of the most horrific ones I've ever encountered with.
Well, Dina's new husband, Randy, says the girls are still dealing with the aftermath of Russell's crimes. They say they want nothing to do with their dad ever again, but Taylor, and they don't call him dad, by the way, but Taylor just doesn't feel the way they do. Take a look.
I was my daddy's little girl, and I still am my daddy's girl.
Taylor's thinking is so twisted that I hope that it is not past any repair.
Taylor was mentally brainwashed and abused by her dad to the point where she believes he's the only person that truly loves her, truly understands her, and the only person that she trusts.
He's been my abuser and protector. After the divorce, my mom tried telling me not to see my dad. If she said no, I lied to her and went saw him. I continued to see my dad because he was my other half. I just felt incomplete without him.
When they sentenced him to prison, she pleaded with the judge that she would get him help.
I just want my father to know that I love him so much. I love him so much. The time that we have been apart has killed me. I just want him to get the help that he needs, and I want him to be happy.
Taylor told me that she doesn't want to get married until her dad gets out of prison so he can walk her down the aisle. If Russ was released from prison tomorrow, I know without a doubt that Taylor would be living with him.
I don't hate my dad at all. I never will. I'll always love him.
Well, and of course, you talked about the fact that you're conflicted about that. That is what you feel in part, correct?
That's right.
Well, Russell Blaster was actually wrote in to show saying, please help Taylor and her family and join him. Talking about your brother here, how do you feel about this being a blood relative that we're talking about up here?
Well, this is hard because my other siblings are they're not anything like Russell. He's always had problems, but we never envisioned that he could be this evil.
Debbie is the sister of Russell Black, and Russell was arrested and charged with 12 first and second degree felonies for rape, sodomy, and forcible sexual abuse. After accepting a plea bargain, he was sentenced to 3 years to life for 2 counts of attempted forcible sodomy and first degree felonies. That's what he was charged with, but it got pled down. So also joining us on the phone is the prosecuting attorney in this case, Julia Thomas. Julia, when I read that he was sentenced to 3 years to life, I saw so many people in the audience gasp, like, wow, 3 years seems like a really short period of time. What do you have to say about it?
Well, on the short end, it's 3 years to life for each count, and they were sentenced consecutively, so that would be 6 years to life. But on the far end, he could conceivably spend the rest of his life in prison on these counts.
I know that he pled out, and I know that sometimes those that plea bargain have to make certain statements before the court. Did he ever apologize? Did he ever acknowledge? Did he ever indicate any remorse whatsoever?
At the sentencing hearing, he had the opportunity to address the court, address Taylor, and he chose not to do so.
He could have spoken to you, Taylor, and he chose not to.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. How do you feel about it? She's hearing that for the first time. How do you feel about that?
Just pretty hurt.
We've got to take a break. Coming up, Taylor says she feels alone. She feels abandoned. She feels confused. I have some things I want to share with her, and I want everybody in this family to listen. We'll be right back.
Me and Taylor both struggle with heroin addiction. I had an opiate addiction, and it wasn't as bad before I met her as it is right now.
You smoke it, you put the heroin on the tinfoil, and then you load it. And then there's the obvious. Pick it up in here and...
Well, that was Taylor talking about her daily drug habit with her boyfriend, Casey. Now, despite Taylor's traumatic childhood, Dina says that she just simply cannot support a drug addict in her home.
The hardest thing I've ever done in my life was to give my daughter a tent and a sleeping bag and tell her she couldn't come home.
I do feel like my mom has abandoned me.
When she lives with us, our home becomes chaotic. My children are afraid. She's brought drug dealers into her room through the window where they've shot up downstairs in her bedroom.
My mom treats me like I'm just hopeless because I left one rehab center. She didn't let me come home.
What I really want to do is bring her home, lay her on the couch, treat her like she was just sick, that I could make her better if I made her some chicken soup and put on her favorite Disney movie like I did when she was my little girl. That's what I want to do for her, but I know I can't. For the sake of my other children, I'm not willing or allowing a drug addict to live in my home.
Do you feel abandoned?
Yes.
Do you feel rejected?
Yes.
And you didn't ask for any of this.
Nope.
And your just reward is to get kicked out of the house.
Just feels wrong.
How do you two feel about her being barred from the home?
She's my sister. I love her, and I'll always love her, but came to a point where I wasn't growing. It was hurting me emotionally. It was my brothers and sisters. Every time she comes over or came over, we had to be on guard, and it felt like we were around Russ again, and
Which that hurts to hear that, because I would never rape my sisters or beat my sisters. Like, I wouldn't do that.
It's my turn now. You are right to do what you are doing. You are right. I mean, we could put you guys on opposite sides here, and I could just flip a coin and argue equally effectively for either one of you. I want everybody to understand that what's happened here by this man was focused on you, but it happened to everybody. What we have to do is sick and twisted. But that was lived, correct? So that, I mean, people say, how could she feel that way about him? That's all you knew. And there were good times, right?
Yeah.
And part of the conflict in you is you loved the attention, didn't you?
Yeah.
You have no responsibility for what happened to you. You have to get that. Accept this as a cornerstone truth. You have no responsibility for what happened to you. There's not anything you did as a child. There wasn't any way you behaved. There wasn't anything you did that makes you responsible for what happened to you. Can you hear that?
Yeah.
Don't take this as an insult, because I don't mean it this way. I'm just telling you the truth about what is. Once you become a victim of sexual molestation, and once you get involved in drugs, and you stack those elements to your existence, your evolution emotionally is arrested at that point. In terms of how you evolve as a person, Your maturity level is fixed at a very early age right now. What we have learned when this happens to you, the stress that comes from sexual abuse, and then you add drugs and violence on top of that, it changes your brain. There's a part of your brain called the hippocampus. You're not going to get a test on this later, but I'm just telling you, there's a part of your brain that actually shrinks up and doesn't function the way it should, and it's a processing element of your brain. And the prefrontal cortex of your brain changes, so your ability to think and resolve things is greatly limited. That's why right now, at a very young emotional age, she still loves this father. It's all she knew. She's fixed at that age. So the question is, what do we do about all of this? And we're going to take a break, and I'm going to come back and tell you what my plan is about what you need to do.
Okay.
All right, we'll be right back.
I don't feel like I miss my dad sexually, but there are times when I'll be having my own sexual relations with Casey, and there are things that he will do that I like because my dad did it. And then there are things that he will do that I don't like because my dad did it. I just have so many mixed, confusing feelings.
Well, that was Taylor, who says at the tender age of 6, she was beginning to be groomed and sexually abused by her father. This continued at varying degrees until age 17. She's now 19, and she says she is confused. She's confused about the feelings that she still has for her father. Now, right now, your brain is toxic. You've done heroin within the last 24 hours. It will take at least a year, for your brain to be completely drug-free. Now, you'll make huge progress in less time than that, but it will be at least a year before your brain is free at a cellular level of these drugs. You need serious professional help. You do need to go to rehabilitation, no question about it. You need medical supervision to get you off of the drugs. But beyond that, you need so much more than just getting you free of drugs. I've made arrangements for that to happen, and I'm going to tell you what I've done. Ben Levinson is here from Origins. He is the CEO and founder, and this is a nationally recognized dual diagnosis treatment center on South Padre Island. When I say dual diagnosis, they deal not just with drugs, but other things that happen in parallel to the drugs. And they offer a gender-separate treatment program for women only there. It's called Hannah's House, and it is terrific. And Jessica Rankin is here from Hannah House. She works there. She is the lead RN at Hannah's House, and she is someone that can really work with you to manage your withdrawal so you don't go to hell and back for all of this. But what has to happen is you have to clean your brain and clean your body, and then we have to start sorting things out for you and helping you understand developmentally where you are and where you're not, and work through that for you so you can begin to see things clearly. And I'm telling you that you deserve this. You need to grab onto this with both hands, and you need to resolve to be worthy of everything that is going to be put into motion for you. I have a treatment team for you that involves 8 or 10 of the top professionals in the country that are going to come in and work with you in so many different ways. And you are worth every bit of it. You are worth every bit of it. People you should be able to trust have violated that trust. Let all of us earn that trust back in your life by doing some right things for you. Will you take this help?
Yeah, yes.
We'll be right back. Complex situation today, and listen, I'm never under the misapprehension that I do 30-minute cures up here with people. What I try to do is unravel what's going on, point people in the right direction, bring the resources necessary for long-term improvement. And I think we've made giant strides towards that today. I want to give a special thanks to Ben Levinson. He's the founder and CEO of Origins Recovery Center. I've got a link on our site, and by the way, I'm not involved in Origins. I don't own any part of this. I just know good when I see it. And there are a lot of quality programs in the country, and if there's one near you that you think you should use, do it. But I'm going to put a link to Origins and Hannah House on our site and give you an opportunity to see if it's right for you or somebody you love. And they'll answer your questions, whether you wind up headed there or not. They're really great about that. They want people to get better. If you're worried that your child is being sexually abused, then you need to learn the warning signs. And I'm going to have those resources on drphil.com. And you may think, well, I'd know it, wouldn't I? Not necessarily. But read the list. Go through it. And if it adds up to suspicious, then it tells you you need to start asking some questions. Thank you guys for coming and sharing this story today. Thank you so much for being here. We'll see you next time.